here. So it's IRR versus NPV, question number 11. What we have is we've got two projects. Here are our year 0, year 1, and year 2 cash flows, and what we are asking is for what range of discount rate is project A better? Illustrate your answer with NPV. So if we jump over, sorry about all my screens open. So this is page 233. You can see this is the crossover rate. So what we're trying to do is figure out at what point where does NPV equal the same for both projects. So this is an example here. Have a read through that. It's on page 232. And it's really simple explanation about what the crossover rate, and it's basically when the NPV flips from project B to project A, and it's that meeting point. And this here is example 7.5. So this is also a really good example on how to calculate. But let's flip back. So using that example, we can do the basis of this calculation here. So what we're doing is trying to find the crossover rate. Now, there's a really simple way to do it on the financial calculator, which I'll flip to in a second, but I'll tell you when I'm doing that. But your first step is what you need to do is calculate the differences in the cash flow. So I've done that for us here. So project A, project B, year 0, they're exactly the same, so it's nil. Year 1, we've got a $10 difference, and then year 2, we've got a negative $12 difference. So if we were doing it in long form, this is our formula right here. You can see that this here, instead of being a plus, normally it usually would be a plus, but because we have a negative 12 here, we need to have that as a minus, okay? So what we can do is, by using that formula, we can then calculate the IRR, which is also your crossover rate. So if we just write crossover rate is R. So this is what we're trying to find. Now, if we were doing it manually, we would have to basically do a bit of a guessing game, but we can use our financial calculator, which I will flip to now and show you how to work it out. Okay, this is question 11. Remember to always clear your calculator. Now, if you have a look at that video on IRR that I posted in week 5, it actually shows you how to calculate IRR. But what we're going to do is now look at the difference in the cash flows from project A and project B and enter it in and calculate our IRR. So our first cash flow is a 0, so we go 0, enter. Then year 1 is a 10, enter. Then year 12 is a negative 12, enter. Then what we need to do is calculate IRR, so we go second cash, comp is 20%, done. Okay, so what we have done is we've found out very simply through our financial calculator that the crossover rate is 20%. That means that's our rate when NPV equals the same on both sides. So let's have a look at that formula up here and do a manual check. So we've got 10 over 1.2 minus 12 over 1.2 to the power of 2. So if we enter in that very first section here into our calculator, you're going to get 8.33 minus, if you do that second section here, you're going to get, again, 8.33. So that's the point of meeting. If that means you're going to get nil. So that's our crossover rate. 20% is correct. So you can do this fairly simply on your financial calculator. The only manual calculations you need to do is this difference in the cash flow. So there we go. It's all one question, but it says, for what range of discount is project A better? So we need to determine which part is project A better when the rate is either higher or below. Now, the first step is, when I've done these calculations, I've done it in the favor of project A. So here, project A, it's $10 above and then negative $12 below project B. So that's important to kind of understand. Now, if we flip to the answers, PV rate, we know that. So we already know that from 0 to 20% equals, we choose project B. From anything over 20%, we choose project A and over. So how do I do that? What I'm going to do is, instead of drawing a graph to really know how it all works, because you won't really be required to do that in exam, I'm just going to do trial and error. So I'm going to use a rate as 30%. So if we're going to input our stuff, we got 10 over, so remember that 10 is a positive, so it's more in favor of project B. Negative 12 here, that's more project B, okay? Over 1.3 minus 12 over 1.3 to the power of 2, and then we enter that in, so 7.69 minus 7.10. So we want the highest MPV, so that's our first part there, 7.69, that's in relation to the 10. So as I said, it's positive on project's A side, so anything above 20% is A. That's our answer. So in addition to stating the crossover rate, you'd also have to state that to get full marks in the exam. Cool. I'm going to mention that part B and part D, I've written you will not required to draw MPV profiles and or indicate the graph. So anything to do with graphs, don't stress about, because that's not going to be accessible in exam conditions. It's going to be way too hard for everyone on the computer to be able to draw that. I wouldn't know how to do it, so don't worry about that. But let's have a read of the question. You've been asked by Winding Rivers to consider the following cash flows for two mutually exclusive investments. Again, this is very much like question 11, but it's breaking it down into different sections and different calculations. So there's our cash flows there. Question number A is our payback period. This is the most simplest calculation you'll ever do. So investment A, you have an investment, oh, I spelled that right, of $10,000. No, I didn't. Okay, so we can see that years 1 and 2, the 4,000, 6,000, they both equal 10,000 exactly. So we're going to repay that investment in 2 years' time. Okay, so investment, so B, our investment is $10,000 again. We've got now year 1, year 2 is going to equal $12,000. So we're going to see how long to pay back in year 2, which equals our investment minus our year 1 amount over 6,000. So that's just 4,000 over 6,000, which equals 0.67. Oh, 67. So payback period equals 0.67 for year 2, and we've also got year 1, which equals 1.67 years. Okay, it's surprising how many people actually don't get that correct in the exam, so they are some super simple marks. Okay, now we're going to part B of this, our crossover. So we're not going to be required to draw the actual graphs. So what we can do is calculate our crossover rate. So again, like we did in question 11, what we need to do is we need to look at our cash flow movements, and we're going to be looking at it from the perspective of A. So year 0 equals 0 change. Year 1 equals a negative $2,000 difference from 4 to 6. Year 2 equals no change in movement because it's 6 and 6. Year 3 equals a positive 9 minus 6 is $3,000. Okay, so they are our cash flow movements. Now what I'm going to do is flip over into my other video showing you how to calculate that on your financial calculator. Okay, now we're going to calculate the crossover rate, so we clear our memory. Okay, our cash flow, so it is 0 for year 1, so we have to enter that. Year 2, it's negative 2,000, enter. Year 2, it's a 0, enter. And then year 3, it's a positive 3,000, enter. Then we go second, cash, comp. There we go, we have 22.47%. So we know that from that, now our rate is 22.47%. That is a super easy way to do our calculations. Now we're going to check it. We scroll up, get our little formula from above. We can just adjust those numbers. So our year one amount is negative $2,000. Now we're going to change that to a plus sign. And year three is now 3,000, and it's a square root to 3. Not square root. Forgot what that's called now. Anyway, keep moving. So now we know that rate is 22.47. So let's do a cross check. So let's just make this super easy for us. 47%. Where's my percent button? There we go. And rate 22.47%. So if we do those calculations, we're going to get, what is it? We've got a negative on this side, 1633.05 plus 1,633.05, which equals 0. So that means our crossover rate is perfect. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is, what we have to do now is we need to say, when do we choose A? Because if we look at the question, it says over what range of investment is A preferred? So when do we choose it? Simpler way to do that is, like I did in question 11, bit of trial and error. Let's bump that up to 30%. So we're going to go 30 here and 30 here. Now we know that our negative 2,000 is in favor of B, and our positive 3,000 is in favor of A. So that's important to know which one to choose. So if we do our little calculations, we're going to get negative 1,538.46. So I'll take the bold off that, plus 1,365.49. So which one's our highest NPV? It is this one here. I know that's got a negative, but it's okay. So that's our highest amount. So that's based off our negative 2,000. So negative 2,000, that means that's our favorite. So when because we've upped the rate, so over 22.47%, we choose B, and under 22.47%, we choose A. Okay? Because if we did, say, 18%, then this side would have a higher MPV, and then that's what we would choose. Okay? Perfect. So that is our answers there. Now, question number C, let's scroll up. Find the IRR, internal rate of return, for the two investments and indicate them on the graph. Obviously, we're not going to do the graph portion, but we're going to calculate the IRR for the two investments. This is just super IRR calculations for A and B. What I'm going to do is flip it to the financial calculator now, because there's no need to do it manually. We just do it on our calculator, and I'll show you how to do it now. Okay, so this is part 3, calculating the IRR. So I'm just going to do investment A for you. You can do investment B on your own. So obviously we clear our memory, and then we enter in our cash flow. So negative 10,000, enter 4,000, enter 6,000, enter 9,000, enter, then we go second, cash, comp. There we go, 34.43%, that's our IRR. Okay, so we can see that the internal rate of return for A is 3%, and then B is 36.31%. Done. Super simple and quick calculations. So D, I've said don't worry about this. So if we scroll up, D, find the exact crossover point and indicate it on the graph. We're not going to do that. We've already calculated the crossover rate in B, and what was that? That was 22.47%. I know this isn't ideal, having questions where you don't need to do half of it, but that's what happens when you have an e-text. Okay, then number E. Suppose you have a required rate of return of 10%. Which investment do you prefer? So our required rate of return is 10%. let's go back up to this section here. Just make that nice and blue. 10%, it's less than 22, so we're going to choose A. Simple, choose A. As it is under the crossover rate of 22.47%. Done. So that's question 15 done. So you can see it actually is quite quick to calculate. You just really need to know what to hit on your calculator, and you can see there's a heap of repeat stuff. So once you get the swing of it, hopefully it's a bit easier and not as daunting. Awesome. Thank you.